I still remember that night vividly. Walking into that upscale restaurant with Jessica, my hand nervously adjusting my collar. 6 months into our relationship, and I was finally meeting her friend group, the infamous Sisters Forever. The excitement in my stomach quickly turned to unease when I caught their expressions. 5 pairs of eyes scanning me up and down, whispers behind manicured hands, and subtle smirks exchanged. When Jessica left for the bathroom, one of them actually snickered at my choice of tie. The worst part, when Jessica returned, she joined right in. If you are watching now, have you ever been disrespected by your partner's friends? Hit like and subscribe if you want to know how I solved my problem and why they never spoke to her again. I met Jessica on a Tuesday afternoon at the university library. I was researching for my economics thesis when she asked if anyone was sitting across from me. Looking up from my laptop, I saw the most beautiful woman, with auburn hair cascading over her shoulders and intelligent brown eyes that sparkled with curiosity. Our conversation started with whispers about the strict librarian and evolved into a 2-hour discussion about our favorite authors. She loved classic literature while I preferred contemporary fiction, but we found common ground in our shared appreciation for storytelling that explored human relationships. I asked for her number before she left, and our first date happened the next evening at Copperpot Coffee, a small cafe just off campus. I remember how she stirred her latte absently while describing her dream of becoming an art curator. Her passion was magnetic. By the time we finished our third coffee, the barista was giving us hints that they were closing. The next 3 months were blissful. We explored hidden bookstores on weekends, attended indie film screenings, and cooked elaborate meals in my small apartment kitchen. I introduced her to my favorite hiking trails, and she taught me to appreciate abstract art. Each new experience reinforced my belief that I had found someone truly special. Jessica understood parts of me that previous girlfriends never could. I first heard about the Sisters Forever during our second month together. Jessica mentioned them casually while we were browsing vinyl records at a music store. Every Friday night was sacred for her and her 5 best friends from high school. Amanda, Kimberly, Taylor, Sophia, and Laura had been inseparable since 9th grade. They called themselves Sisters Forever and had matching tattoos of small infinity symbols on their wrists to prove it. I thought it was sweet that she maintained such close friendships. My own high school buddies had scattered across different states for college, and we only reconnected during holidays. I admired her loyalty and the way she prioritized these relationships. But then came the first warning sign. I was supposed to finally meet her friends at a dinner party. Jessica had talked it up for weeks, and I bought a new shirt for the occasion. 2 hours before she texted that the plans had changed. Her friends had decided on a girls-only night instead. This pattern continued. Jessica would cancel our weekend plans if one of her friends had a crisis. Late-night calls from Amanda or Taylor would interrupt our movie nights, and Jessica would step outside to talk for 30 minutes or more. Once she left in the middle of our anniversary dinner because Laura had broken up with her boyfriend. After 3 months together, Jessica made an offhand comment that sent a chill through me. My friends can be really picky about who I date. Still, I wanted to make a good impression. I asked Jessica about their interests and took notes. Amanda loved French cinema. Kimberly collected vintage jewelry. Taylor was training for a marathon. Sophia was a vegan chef. Laura played violin in a string quartet. For their friendship anniversary, I helped Jessica prepare gift baskets with personalized items for each friend. I even suggested hosting a dinner at my apartment as a neutral meeting ground. Each time Jessica found a reason to postpone the introduction. She would say Amanda was going through a tough time, or Laura was busy with rehearsals, or Kimberly had family visiting. We had a few near misses. Once Jessica FaceTimed with them while we were having lunch. She flipped the camera toward me briefly, and I waved awkwardly as 5 faces scrutinized me through the screen. Another time, we ran into Sophia at a farmer's market. The brief introduction felt more like an interrogation than a friendly encounter. Jessica always brushed off my concerns. "They just want to make sure you are good enough for me," she would say, with a laugh that did not quite reach her eyes. But the question lingered in my mind. Why, after 6 months, was I still being kept at arm's length from such an important part of her life? When Jessica finally arranged a proper dinner for me to meet her friends, I spent hours preparing. I chose my most impressive button-down shirt and slacks, got a fresh haircut, and even bought small gifts for each woman based on their interests. A French film on Blu-ray for Amanda, a vintage brooch for Kimberly, athletic socks for Taylor, a cookbook for Sophia, concert tickets for Laura. The evening started with tension so thick you could slice it with the butter knives on our table. The sisters forever arrived together whispering among themselves as they approached our table at Bellini's, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. Jessica stood to hug each of them, while I waited awkwardly, hand extended for introductions that felt more like business transactions than social greetings. "Dane, these are my best friends," Jessica said, gesturing around the table. They examined me with thinly veiled skepticism. I could feel them cataloging every detail from my haircut to my shoes. The first act of disrespect came within minutes. Amanda, a slender blonde with piercing blue eyes, addressed me directly. "So, David, what exactly do you do?" she asked. "It's Dane, actually," I corrected gently. "I work in financial analysis for a green energy investment firm." "Oh, right, Dane," she said with exaggerated emphasis. "Jessica mentioned you do something with money." Throughout the appetizers, Kimberly steered the conversation toward nostalgic stories about Jessica and her ex-boyfriend Kevin. "Remember that amazing surprise birthday party Kevin threw for you? God, he flew in your favorite band from Chicago. What a romantic gesture." Each story ended with a pointed look in my direction, as if measuring me against this paragon of boyfriends past. I tried to participate by asking questions about their shared history, but my comments were met with one-word answers or outright ignored. During the main course, I noticed Taylor surreptitiously taking photos with her phone under the table. When I excused myself to use the restroom, I glimpsed her screen and saw she was posting unflattering shots to their group chat with mocking captions. Sophia launched the most direct attack while we waited for dessert. "So Dane, Jessica tells us you like to play video games. Isn't that a bit childish for someone your age?" Before I could defend my occasional gaming sessions, which were hardly different from binge-watching television shows, Laura jumped in. "And you live in that small apartment in West Side. I heard the plumbing is terrible in those buildings." I took a deep breath and explained that I was saving for a down payment on a house while paying off my student loans, a responsible financial decision that seemed to impress Jessica when we had discussed it privately. Throughout the entire meal, they created a bubble that excluded me entirely. They would ask Jessica questions about our relationship, as if I were not sitting right there. "So, has he met your parents yet? And does he know about your 5-year plan?" Despite the uncomfortable atmosphere, I made consistent efforts to bridge the gap. I shared a funny story about a misadventure Jessica and I had on a hiking trip. The response was polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. When the check came, I immediately picked it up, hoping the gesture would score some goodwill points. Not one of them thanked me. The final blow came as we were putting on our coats to leave. Amanda checked her phone and announced that a new cocktail bar had opened downtown. "We should check it out, girls' night," she declared, looking at Jessica expectantly. Jessica hesitated for just a moment before her face lit up. "Yes, that sounds fun. No one even pretended to invite me along." Jessica kissed my cheek quickly and said, "You do not mind, right? I will text you later tonight." Before I could formulate a response, they whisked her away, their laughter echoing in the restaurant foyer as I stood alone holding the gift bags that I never had the chance to distribute. I drove home in silence, replaying the evening in my mind. Each dismissive comment, each excluding gesture, each moment Jessica failed to stand up for me, coalesced into a heavy weight on my chest. When Jessica finally came home around 2 in the morning, I was sitting on the couch, still processing the events of the night. "Why are you still up?" she asked, slipping off her heels. "I think we need to talk about tonight," I said evenly. "Your friends were incredibly disrespectful to me." Jessica rolled her eyes dramatically. "They were just being protective. They always vet my boyfriends." "Vet me? They barely let me speak. Amanda kept calling me the wrong name. Kimberly would not stop talking about your ex. Taylor was posting unflattering pictures of me to your group chat. Sophia insulted my hobbies and Laura criticized where I live. And you just sat there letting it all happen. You are being way too sensitive." Jessica scoffed. "They are just looking out for me. They have been in my life a lot longer than you have." I felt my temper rising but kept my voice calm. There is a difference between being protective and being cruel. They were not giving me a chance. And you left me standing there to go out with them. Her defensive posture shifted to aggression. "What do you want me to do? Choose between you and my best friends?" "That is never going to happen, Dane." I just want you to acknowledge how they treated me and maybe stand up for me next time." That is when she said the words that changed everything. She threw her hands up in exasperation, her voice rising. "If you do not like my friends, that is your problem." The statement hung in the air between us, her anger palpable. In that moment, something crystallized within me. I looked at her, this woman I had fallen in love with, suddenly seeing her in a different light. "You are right," I said quietly. "It is my problem, and I will solve it." Jessica seemed taken aback by my calm response. She had clearly expected more of a fight. Instead, I simply turned and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind me. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan, mentally reviewing our entire relationship. Had I missed other warning signs? Had I been so blinded by my feelings for Jessica that I ignored fundamental incompatibilities? When morning came, I had reached a decision. If these friends were such an integral part of Jessica's life, and if she refused to acknowledge how poorly they had treated me, then I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I would not make any rash decisions without having all the facts. While Jessica slept, I opened my laptop and began some basic research. Her Instagram and Facebook accounts were connected to her friends, and I spent hours scrolling through their social media history. What I found disturbed me. In photos dating back years, I noticed a pattern. Jessica would post pictures with a boyfriend, excited captions about new relationships. Then came photos with the sisters forever, increasingly exclusive. Finally, relationship status changes to single, accompanied by supportive comments from the friend group. End with beginning again for Jessica gone boyfriends, never to be seen in the timeline again. I noted the absence of any boyfriends in group photos. In fact, any time a boyfriend appeared in Jessica's social media, it was only in photos with just her. The sisters forever existed in a separate sphere, one that did not allow for romantic partners. More troubling were the comments. Veiled criticisms of Jessica's relationships. Subtle undermining comments about her boyfriend's choices or appearance. Questions about whether she was really happy, whether she was settling. And Jessica agreeing, slowly adopting their viewpoints in her responses. The location tags also revealed inconsistencies. Times when Jessica told me she was studying yet was tagged at bars with her friends. Occasions when she said she had to work late but was checking in at restaurants across town. Nothing explicitly damning, but enough to make me question her honesty. I needed more information. Reluctantly, I reached out to someone I never thought I would contact. I found James, Jessica's ex-boyfriend, on LinkedIn and sent him a message explaining my situation. To my surprise, he responded within hours and agreed to meet for coffee. James was not what I expected. A thoughtful, well-spoken architect who bore no ill will toward Jessica. He listened to my story with growing recognition in his eyes. "So they gave you the sisters forever treatment too," he said, shaking his head. "Let me guess." Amanda led the charge. "How did you know?" "It is always Amanda," he explained. "She orchestrates the whole thing. They did the same to me, and to Ryan before me, and to Brian before him. It's a pattern." James shared his experience so similar to mine it was eerie. The initial exclusion, the subtle insults, the way Jessica never defended him, the constant competition with their friendship, and finally the ultimatum. I asked what caused their breakup. "Jessica missed my architecture award ceremony," he said. "It was the biggest night of my career, and she chose a last-minute girls' trip instead." When I expressed my hurt, she said the exact same thing to me. "If you do not like my friends, that is your problem." Before we parted ways, James put me in touch with Ryan and Brian, who confirmed similar experiences. But Ryan added an important detail. "Check out their group chat," he advised. Jessica once left her laptop open, and I saw some of their conversations. It was eye-opening. I was not proud of my next move, but I felt I had no choice. When Jessica showered the next morning, I checked her phone. She had left it unlocked on the nightstand, a notification from the Sisters Forever chat glowing on the screen. What I found sent ice through my veins. Thousands of messages in a chat spanning years, dedicated largely to discussing, criticizing, and ultimately destroying Jessica's relationships. I took screenshots rapidly, my hands shaking with each new revelation. Amanda was indeed the ringleader. Messages from her revealed a disturbing truth. "I do not think any guy will ever be good enough for our Jess. We need to stick together, just us girls. These men just distract her from what really matters." More shocking were admissions of deliberate sabotage. Taylor bragging about how she got between Jessica and Brian by constantly creating emergencies that pulled Jessica away from dates. Kimberly admitting she told James that Jessica complained about him behind his back when she never had. Sophia and Laura discussing how they had convinced Jessica that Ryan was not ambitious enough for her. And Jessica caught in the middle, sometimes defending her boyfriends initially, but eventually capitulating to her friends' judgments, adopting their criticisms as her own. The most devastating discovery was a message from Amanda from just 3 months ago. "I cannot stand seeing Jessica with another guy. She belongs with us. With me. You all know how I feel about her. We just need to get rid of Dane like we did the others." The others had responded with supportive emojis and suggestions for how to make me look bad in Jessica's eyes. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, as the shower continued to run. This was not just about friends being overprotective. This was systematic manipulation by Amanda, who clearly had romantic feelings for Jessica and was using the group to sabotage her heterosexual relationships. Over the next week, I gathered more evidence. I compiled screenshots, social media posts, text messages, and testimonies from the exes into a comprehensive document. I wrote a long letter explaining everything I had discovered, my feelings about our relationship, and why I felt betrayed not just by her friends, but by Jessica herself. I knew exactly when to make my move. Amanda's birthday was approaching, and the sisters forever would be celebrating in their group chat that evening since Amanda was visiting family out of state. Jessica would be online participating in the virtual celebration. I created an anonymous account, and using a temporary access Jessica had once given me to post photos from a concert they all attended, I joined their group chat. At 9:30, right when the online celebration was in full swing, I posted the entire dossier of evidence, including my letter. I laid out everything from the pattern of sabotage to Amanda's confessed feelings for Jessica. I explained how their friendship, while meaningful, had become toxic and controlling. I addressed Jessica, directly expressing my hurt at her failure to stand up for me and her willingness to participate in their manipulation. I concluded with Jessica, "You told me if I did not like your friends it was my problem. You were right. This is me solving my problem. I deserve someone who respects me enough to defend me, who values my presence in their life, who chooses honesty over loyalty to toxic behaviors. I hope someday you find the strength to recognize what these friendships have really cost you. I wish you all the best, but I cannot be part of this dynamic anymore. Goodbye." I logged off immediately after posting, but not before seeing the message had been read by everyone in the group, including Jessica. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Text messages from Jessica, voicemails from Amanda, even messages from Taylor, Kimberly, Sophia, and Laura, all either denying everything or blaming each other. I did not respond to any of them. I turned off my phone and spent the night at my brother's apartment, needing space to process the emotional weight of what I had done. Jessica showed up at my door the next morning, eyes swollen from crying, clutching printed copies of the screenshots. "Is this true? Did Amanda really say these things?" she asked, her voice cracking. I nodded, inviting her in, but maintaining emotional distance. The fallout was immediate and dramatic. Jessica had confronted each friend individually, piecing together the extent of their deception. Amanda finally confessed her romantic feelings, admitting she had been in love with Jessica since high school and had orchestrated situations to keep her single. Kimberly blamed Amanda, but acknowledged her own role in the sabotage. Taylor tried to deny everything until faced with her own messages. Sophia and Laura turned on each other, revealing years of hidden resentments. The sisters forever imploded overnight, 10 years of friendship, dissolving in a flurry of accusations and revelations. A week later, Jessica came to collect some things she had left at my apartment. She looked different, somehow smaller, without her usual confidence. "I am so sorry, Dane," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "I had no idea what they were doing. What Amanda was doing. I trusted them completely." I did feel sorry for her. Finding out your closest friends had been manipulating you for years would be devastating. But I also recognized that Jessica had been complicit, choosing repeatedly to prioritize these toxic friendships over treating her romantic partners with respect. "I know you did not see it," I told her gently, "but you participated in it. You let them disrespect me. You chose them every single time without question. That shows me what I would always be in your life. Second place. She asked for another chance, promising things would be different now that she understood the truth. But some broken things cannot be repaired. Our final conversation was mature and surprisingly peaceful. We acknowledged the good times we had shared, while recognizing the fundamental incompatibility that had always existed. Jessica had allowed her identity to become too entwined with her friend group, and I needed a partner who would create a life with me as her priority. We parted with a hug that felt like closure. The weeks that followed were difficult. I missed Jessica, or perhaps the idea of Jessica I had created in my mind. I threw myself into work, spending long hours at the office to avoid my empty apartment. Gradually, I rediscovered parts of myself that had become diminished during our relationship. I rejoined my rock climbing gym. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected. I started a book club at the local independent bookstore, finding community among fellow readers. My brother Mark became my strongest support, inviting me for weekly dinners and introducing me to new social circles. Through his encouragement, I began to recognize patterns in my own behavior, a tendency to minimize my needs to keep peace in relationships. I started therapy, working through not just the breakup but deeper issues about self-worth and boundaries. I learned that respecting myself enough to demand respect from others was not selfish, but necessary. 6 months after our breakup, I ran into Jessica at our old coffee shop. She looked well more centered than I had ever seen her. We chatted briefly about our lives. She had started graduate school in art history and was interning at a museum. I had received a promotion at work and was considering buying a condo downtown. I have been doing a lot of thinking, she said. About my friendships. I realized I never knew how to balance different relationships in my life. I always thought loyalty meant choosing sides. I nodded, appreciating her self-awareness. The sisters forever never recovered, she added. Amanda moved to Seattle. The others barely speak to each other now. I have new friends, healthier friendships with better boundaries. She paused. I learned a lot from what happened, Dane. Thank you for showing me the truth, even though it hurt. We did not try to reconnect romantically. Some chapters are meant to end. But I left that encounter feeling a sense of peace I had not expected to find. Today, I am open to new relationships, but with clearer boundaries and expectations. I understand now that true partnership requires mutual respect and priority. That standing up for your partner is not betraying your friends but honoring your commitment. That real love should never feel like a competition. The experience taught me that solving my problem did not mean winning or getting revenge. It meant honoring my worth enough to walk away from situations that diminished me. Sometimes the most powerful solution is simply refusing to remain part of the problem. Have you ever had to choose between a relationship and your self-respect? What did you do? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to my channel. I share new stories every week about relationships, self-worth, and the lessons I have learned along the way. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by what you accept. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourself and never settle for being an option in someone's life when you should be a priority.